I'm not surprised that the first movie review I post on this channel of the year is a Marvel movie review, but sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So today I'd like to talk about my thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't actually have a lot of strong thoughts either way on this movie, so I figured I'll just start talking about the things I liked, the things I didn't like, and then at the end just kind of share my overarching thoughts on some questions I maybe had and my thoughts on the MCU going forward. First off, let's talk about Jonathan Majors as Kang. And I mean, I don't know what else to say. Pretty much everyone's been talking about how he's the best part of the movie. I would probably agree. I think Jonathan Majors has been, his career has been kind of on the upward trajectory for a while, and people were pretty excited when they saw him get cast in this role, and he crushes it. I mean, not only his acting, but the way that he is portraying Kang. The MCU has been criticized largely in the past for its villains basically just being the evil versions of the main characters. You do have a few standouts like Loki and Thanos, obviously, and I would say that you could probably consider this Kang among the standout villains in the MCU. He's not just, the evil version of Ant-Man. They don't have similar powers in any way. They give his character quite a bit of depth and a little bit of backstory, which is obviously always necessary for that characterization. But you also get a sense of genuine danger when Kang is on screen. He presents as a very formidable opponent, and the actions you see him take throughout the movie really make that legitimate. So I really enjoyed Jonathan Majors as Kang. I think he was one of the strengths of this movie. I guess just sticking along the lines of acting, I thought all of the characters were acted very well. I'm a huge fan of Paul Rudd, and his portrayal of Ant-Man has been, pretty solid throughout his run in the MCU, and he's great again in this movie. I thought all the other actors did well as well. All of these characters we've been with for 3 or 4 movies, depending on if you count their inclusion in Endgame. Obviously, they recast the role of Cassie. There was a different actress who played her in Endgame. You don't really notice it. The original actress was only in one scene. Well, maybe 2, I guess, but that's not gonna really bother anyone, I don't think. So another strength of this movie is just the acting overall. And then the last thing that I thought was a positive of this movie that a lot of people actually might criticize are going to be the visual effects. So obviously this movie takes place largely in the quantum realm, which is an entirely CG and, not real environment, obviously. So this movie, pretty much every single shot has visual effects, which when you have that many, there's bound to be, several that maybe don't hit. But I've always held the opinion that if you don't notice the visual effects, or if you don't even realize that it's visual effects, then that's good visual effects. And now, obviously, it's all either green screen or done on the volume with the volume technology. So yeah, you can kind of tell, if you've seen enough movies, you can recognize when it's green screen or blue screen or it's a fake background. But you can kind of look past that, at least I can. But again, I think for the most part, once you accept that it's 99% visual effects, you can kind of get past it. There's really no bad CG, save for maybe one that I'll talk about in a second. But for the most part, I thought for a movie that had that much visual effects, I did not notice really anything that stood out on a negative side. All right, some issues I had with the film. So I talked about how most of the CG was good. There was one character who was done primarily with visual effects that just kind of hit the uncanny valley. I'm not going to really spoil it. This character did appear in a trailer, so if you watch the trailer, and it's not really a spoiler at this point, but not only did the visual effects look a little bit wonky on that character, but the way that they kind of wrote this character into the story, this character almost served as comedic relief in a sense, especially kind of near the end of the film. Some of the lines that this character delivers, it's definitely meant to be comedic in nature. So I thought it was an interesting take on the character, but the way that that character's arc kind of went in the film, I was not the biggest fan of. Also, if you watched any of the marketing material for this movie, you're led to believe that the main sort of context for Scott Lang and Kang interacting with each other is one thing, but in the movie it's not that. In the movie, their purpose for interacting is much more direct and much more simple than what was kind of teased in the trailers, which I guess from a writing perspective going forward, that makes things a little bit easier. But it was not really as unique as I would have hoped it was. What was teased was a little bit more was more on a deeper level involving the characters in terms of the two characters connecting. But in the film, it was just way more straightforward and a pretty common reason for bad guys and good guys interacting in the MCU. So I thought that was kind of a disappointment. Not that they didn't execute it well enough. I just, it was not what I expected. Also, what I did not expect was where they sort of leave off the situation regarding Kang's character at the end of the film. I don't want to go into too much details because this is a spoiler-free review, but the kind of arc that Kang takes in this movie and where his arc is left at the end of this movie is really not at all what I expected, and so I'm really interested to see how they're going to continue with Kang. I mean, so it's no secret that the next Avengers movies are based around Kang. Like, one of them is called the Kang Dynasty. So it's no secret that Kang is supposed to be kind of the next big bad guy. He's like the next Thanos. So obviously Kang is still going to be around. But where they left off his character arc in this movie was not really what I thought they were going to do. I'm still not really sure if I'm on board with what they've done. I guess we'll just have to see what happens going forward. But just the way that they left off with his character was not what I expected. And so I'm still kind of, undecided as to what I think of how they did that. Yeah, so just some final thoughts. I enjoyed this movie. Like, it's a good movie. It's actually a quick watch. It's a 2-hour and 5-minute movie, I think, but it goes by relatively quickly. They get into the action right away. Like, they get into the quantum realm, and this may be a light spoiler, but they get into the quantum realm within like the first 5 minutes of the movie. So I appreciate that it kind of starts, right away, and it just kind of goes from there. But yeah, there were some decisions I didn't necessarily agree with. There's obviously with Kang in this movie is supposed to be the setup for like the rest of the MCU or the rest of this phase and the next phase. The way that they left it off in this movie, I don't know if I really am on board with that yet, but I guess we'll just have to see. But Jonathan Majors will be back. Like, it's no secret he is Kang. So with him being one of the best parts of this movie, that's at least something we can look forward to going forward with the MCU. Okay, so Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, have you seen it? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for more.